kind of a horror mystery thing. It's called The Brazilian Cat, and it's the second of Mrs. Anderson's plays. And I'd like the directors to come out and introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about the play.
Hi everyone, welcome. My name is Chelsea. I'm Kim. I'm Letitia. And like Mrs. Anderson said, it's kind of a horror mystery thing. A double-dealing relative will do anything to protect his interest in the family fortune. It's a tale of terror from Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and was adapted by Miranda the Elder. Our play was set in about the 1800s, so costuming and stuff is a little difficult, but we got through. Our kids have worked very hard on this play, and we're very proud of them, so I hope you enjoy it.
Well, Summers, as my solicitor, what you recommend? Besides, the room lies right across my path, and every day it becomes clearer, nearer, and more absolutely unavoidable.
I believe you stated it fairly accurate. Your brokers are reluctant to extend you any further credit.
It's a pity my father placed so much trust in his elder brother. Since my father died, Lord Hudson has paid very little interest in me. It's ironic, too. The rest of the King family are very well-to-do. Cousin Everard lived a very adventurous life in Brazil. No one really knows how he made his fortune, but he sailed to a nice estate southern of Suffolk. Thank you. Very strange, Summers. It's from Greylands. And Cousin Everard. After all these years, what do you suppose? He wants me to come for a short visit.
Seems almost providential. Will you go?
If I can get on friendly terms with this unknown relative, I might be able to avoid bankruptcy. Surely he would want to help his own kin. Yes, I'll go. What do I have to lose?
Marshall wasted no time, sending his acceptance by telegram and packing his bags. After changing trains in Ipswich, a local train deported him to a small deserted station lying amid a very rolling grassy country. As no carriage awaited him, he hired a dog cart from a local inn and struck up a conversation with the driver as they drove to Everett King's estate.
Aisha, nu mi stupid. In Inglaterra n-am servat să găsi manetul chest of the Navajo. The town people in the hill grove, some say he's my parliamentary business.
Look over there. What a strange bird.
I just want me to be the delegate to the state. Now you all see us birds God's name. He brought them back from Brazil.
Look at the deer. And an armadillo. And what's that over there? It looks something like a badger.
The whiny road had ended in front of a stone mountain. Everett King, dressed in white linen, with a large hat perched on the back of his head, stood on the steps waiting to greet his cousin.
Ah, Cousin Marshall, welcome to Greyland. I take that as great confidence that you should honor sleep a little ham with your presence. Come now, you must meet my wife.
The woman he pushed forward was tall, thin, and pale. She did not smile. Her dark eyes leered fiercely.
How do you do? You shouldn't have come.
Let us go into dinner now. Then a good night rest. Tomorrow you shall see my collections.
When Marshall came downstairs the next morning, Mrs. King was waiting alone.
Ah, Mrs. King. Good morning.
The next train out today is at 12:15.
Thank you. I had no intention of leaving today.
You're not wanted here. You shouldn't have come.
I'm sure my cousin will tell me if I've overstayed my welcome.
Just then, Everett walked At that moment, Miss Everett appeared in the doorway. Mrs. King turned abruptly and left the room.
I hope my wife's apologized for her foolish remarks.
Of course.
The fact is, there should be no concealment between cousins. It's just that my wife's extremely jealous of anything male or female that should come between us. Tell me you'll think no more of it.
It's already forgotten.
Good. Then come now with me and come see my little lingerie.
The whole morning was occupied by this inspection, which included the birds, beasts, and even some animals that had been imported. Some were free, some in cages, and a few actually in the house. Finally, they walked down a long corridor wall, stone wall corridor, which extended from one wing of the house. At the end of this was a massive door with small windows covered by movable shutters. Next to the door was an iron handle attached to a wheel. An extended iron barred gate stood perchly alongside one corridor wall.
I'm about to show you the jewel of my collection. There's only one other specimen in Europe like it. It's the Brazilian cat.
A cat? What makes it so different than any other cat?
You will soon see. Will you kindly open that shutter and look through?
Marcia saw a large room with flagstone floors and small, barred windows on the far wall. In the center of the room stretched a huge creature, as large as a tiger, sleek, and as black as ebony, with eerie yellow eyes that glowed like lanterns.
Isn't he splendid?
Glorious. I've never seen such a noble-looking creature.
Some people call it the black puma, but really it's not a puma at all. This cat is nearly 11 feet from tip to tail. It was sold to me as a newborn cub up in the wilds of Headwaters country. The natives sold it to me after its mother killed a dozen of their people.
Brazilian cats known to be ferocious then.
Yes, they're the most treacherous and bloodthirsty creatures on earth. They prefer human to game. This one has not yet tasted living blood, but when he does, he will be a terror. At present, he won't stand anyone's stand but me. Even Baldwin, the groom, dares not go near him. As for me, I'm his mother and father in one.
As Everett spoke, he opened the door and slipped in, instantly behind him. At the sound of his voice, the huge creature rose, yawned, and rubbed its round black head affectionately against Everett.
Now, Tommy, into your cage!
The cat padded over to one side of the room and sat obediently. Everett re-entered the corridor and began turning the iron wheel. As he did so, the iron barred gate in the corridor cast along the wall and made its way to the far side of the room, caging the cat. Everett then opened the door and motioned for Marshall to enter.
Ingenious. The iron gate is stored along the corridor, but when the wheel is turned in the hall, it slides through the narrow opening in the wall, closing the entrance to the cat's cage.
Exactly so. We give him the run the entire room for exercise. Then at night we give him only some of the room, which becomes in effect his cage. You can let him out and coop him up, as you have just seen by turning the handle from the corridors.
So entrance was marshaled the Brazilian cat as he unwillingly reached his hand through the iron gate.
How sleek he is. I can see why you call him the jewel of your collection.
No, don't put your hand between the bars. Don't think just because I take liberties with him anyone else can. He's very exclusive in his friendships. Aren't you, Tommy? Aye, here's his lunch come to you, don't you, boy?
As steps sounded in the corridor, the creature sprang to his feet, pacing up and down the cage. His yellow eyes gleamed as the scarlet tongue rippled and quivered over the white linen and jagged teeth. A groom entered with a course of meat upon a tray and thrust into the bars to him. Tommy pounced on it, carried it to the corner, and there, holding it between his paws, tore and wrenched at it, raising his muzzle every now and then to look at the men.
Can't joke that I'm fond of him, can you? Especially when you take into account I've reared him from young entirely myself. The zoo would love to have him, but really I can't part with him now. Well, I think I've inflicted my hog upon you long enough. Let us best follow Tommy's example and go to our lunch.
When Marshall's visit reached his sixth day, he and Everett were on the most door of terms. Besides Everett's hobbies, Marshall was fantasized by his other businesses. What it was, he still
was hoping that you might have some advice to give.
But surely you're the heir of our relative, Lord Southerton.
I have every reason to believe so. But since my father died, Lord Southerton has not paid me any allowance.
Yes, I've heard of his miserly ways. By the way, have you heard any news of his health lately?
No, but he's always been in very poor health indeed. Ever since my childhood.
Those kinds are often sturdier than they look. Your inheritance may still be a long way off. Dear me, how artfully situated you are.
I was hoping that you, knowing all the facts, might be inclined to give me an advance.
Not another word, my boy. We shall talk about tonight. And I swear to you, whatever is in my power shall be done. Listen to that wind. The storm's really intensified. I must see to my answers, and I still have some unfinished business up there. Meet me in the billiard room in, say, an hour or so.
Of course.
Marshall re-entered the billiard room, watching the onset of the storm through the window as he pounded the nature of his cousin's business. It must indeed be very important, as an ever greater flurry of telegrams had been delivered that day. Having drifted off to sleep in his chair, he was startled by the sudden appearance of Mrs. King.
What? You're still here? Leave now before it's too late.
I intend to leave, Mrs. King. In the morning. Really, it's none of your concern.
But before she could reply, they heard footsteps, and with a frightening expression, Mrs. King slipped through an adjoining drawing room. Everett entered the room.
The house is secure, and we have the night to ourselves. Now tell me how your affairs stand. I wish to hear every detail.
Marshall entered into a long explanation of his finance problems with tradesmen and creditors. He brought what notes he had in a business-like manner. At first he listened intently, then it seemed his attention was drifted elsewhere. Every now and then he'd ask for fuller explanations or for something to be repeated. But finally his mind appeared to wander again. Finally he rose and threw a cigar to the fireplace.
Well, never really had a head for figure. Jot it all down. I'll understand better once I see it in black and white.
Of course, that'll be no trouble.
By Jove, there's 1 o'clock striking in the hall, and the storm's not yet abated. I must see to my cat. A high wind excites him. Wish to come along?
Of course.
Then tread softly and don't speak, for everyone's asleep.
They passed down a lamplit Persian round hall and through the door at the far end. All was dark in the stone corridor, but a stable lantern hung on a hook. Everett took it down and lit it. There was no gate visible along the passage, meaning the beast must have been in its cage. Everett entered the room.
Come in, Marshal.
In the flickering light of the lantern, they could see a huge black cat sitting coiled in the corner of its den. Its tail switched in the straw. The storm had indeed agitated him.
Poor Tommy seems not the best of tempers. I must give him a little something to put him in a better humor. Would you mind moving the lantern in front of the Lord,
Everyone out and shut
Everyone, let me out. I'm uneasy in here.
don't make such a row. You've got the light there.
Yes, but I don't care to be locked in alone like this.
Don't you? You won't be alone long.
Let me out, sir. I tell you, I do not allow practical jokes of this sort.
Practical is the key word, my boy.
Suddenly Marshall heard a creak and whine of the wheel outside the door and saw the iron gate crack open. Everett was letting loose the Brazilian cat.
Wait, don't do this.
Horrified, Marshall watched the iron gate slide through the narrow opening in the wall. Already there was an opening a foot wide at one end. He hurled himself at the bars and pulled with the strength of a madman. For a minute he held the bars motionless, but the leverage of his cousin on the other side was greater. Inch by inch, Marshall was being dragged along to the opening of the gate.
Stop! Please, don't do this! I'm your cousin! What have I done to deserve such a horrible fate?
But Marshall's pleas went unheard. The room was no longer divided. The beast's cage stood open. He then heard Everett walk down the corridor and slam the distant door. Then silence. The creature had not moved
The windows are too small and have bars. And the corridor from here to the house is at least 100 yards long. And with this wind outside, no one will hear me scream. The lantern! It will be out soon. I must act while I can still see. But what can I do?
Marshall now saw that the cat section of the room had a double ceiling, a framework of iron bars and mesh supported by a post at each corner, formed the actual top of the cat's cage.
There must be at least 3 feet in between the roof and that mesh. If I can get up there, I'll only be vulnerable from the burn. At least the cat will have to go out of its way to reach me. What other choice do I have?
Marshall sprang up, seizing the front iron cat's cage ceiling. He holstered himself into it. He wriggled in, face downward, and found himself staring straight into the eyes and terrible jaws of the cat. With a sleek ripple of its long black back, it rose, stretching itself, and then, rearing itself on its hind legs with one forepaw against the wall, it raised the other and drew its claws across the wire mesh beneath Marshall. One sharp white hook tore through the torso and dug forward of his knee.
Ah! I must pull myself farther away from the opening. Anything to make it harder for him to reach me. Where is he now? Just pacing. How softly that huge cat treads. The lantern! It's going out! There it goes. This last flare and flutter. I'm alone in the dark with that beast!
Marshall lay as silent as he could, hoping the cat might forget his presence. He reckoned it must be near 2 o'clock by now. At 4 it would be full dawn. The hours passed slowly.
Gone at last. Why has my cousin done this to me? What hatred he must have hidden behind that smile. What story would he tell the local constable? That he had left me in the billiard room to finish my cigar, and I went down to have one last look at the cat by myself, and entered the room without realizing that the gate was open? It can never be proven that he had anything to do with my death.
As dawn approached, the cat became more active. He was undoubtedly hungry. He paced the room with a continual growl, his tail switching and lashing, his savage eyes looking up at Marshall.
He means to kill me. If I can pull that gate back through the wall, I can find refuge behind it. Can I possibly move it?
Very slowly, Marshall inched forward until he grasped the final bar, which still protruded through the wall.
Yes, move it. Now if I can just pull it, a little at a time.
With a sudden lunge, the cat had sprung onto the mesh canopy. Its red tongue and flashing teeth were striking distance. Its claws were wrapped against the mesh as it found to keep its balance, but it miscalculated and dropped backwards onto the floor. It turned and growled. It turned with a growl and crouched for another second. Quickly, Marshall removed his jacket and flung it over the head of the cat. Instantly, he dropped over the edge of the mesh ceiling onto the floor, seizing the iron gate, and pulled it frantically out of the wall. Disoriented, the cat thrashed about and managed to grasp Marshall's leg just as Marshall slipped through the opening in the cage and pulled the gate completely shut. Marshall was inside the cage area. The cat was left in the room.
He can't reach me now. Oh, my leg. It's bleeding badly now. I must find a way to stop the bleeding.
Exhausted from his ordeal and faint of loss of blood, Marshall lost consciousness. The beast screeched of its prey, pressed its broad black chest against the bars, and angled for him with its sharp claws. But the cat could not quite reach him. Sometime later, a sound of a sharp metal clink rose Marshall, but he still didn't move. The door opened and Everett entered the room.
Tommy, I was figuring out here in Marshall's in the kitchen. Ah, what cool blood there's around him. Good boy, Tommy. What are you doing, Tommy? Down, Tommy!
Marshall spent weeks in his recovery. He'd only vague impressions of doctors and nurses hovering over him. With one exception. He vividly not until doctors pronounced Marshall well enough to manage his finances he heard the final story.
So you see, Marshall, Baldwin shot the beast before he or any of the other staff could remove you from the cage. There's nothing we could do about your cousin. We cannot imagine who had brought such an unfortunate accident upon you. And so, your lordship, I'm glad to see you finally looking so much better.
Your lordship? What are you saying, Summers? Really, I'm in no mood for jokes.
But it's true. You've been the Lord of Southerton for the past 6 weeks.
6 weeks? That means that Lord Sludge must have died sometime during my visit.
His death occurred upon the last day of your visit.
Astonishing.
Yes, and a very curious coincidence in my opinion. Of course, you realize that your cousin was the next heir after you to the estate. If you would have been killed by that beast, he would be the Lord of Southerton now.
Quite so.
Yes, and do you not think that he wished to be so willing for when he knew that he was not the direct heir?
Yes. Well, if you will hand me my checkbook and all of my bills, we will begin to set things in order.
To help us out. And is Mrs. Anderson could come up, please? Come on up. This lady put in so many hours for us, and we really like to say thank you. So here you go. And we'd also like to thank our sound man Adam in the wings, if he would come up as well.
Unnecessary.
And again, we'd like to thank our kids and thank you all for coming. We hope you enjoyed it.
Okay, we'd like to thank our directors for pretty much putting up with us the whole while.
It was tough.
Yeah, we were
Sorry.
bad, so.
Thanks, guys.
To thank this whole group. First of all, I think you would agree with me that they picked quite an unusual play for junior drama, and they were very creative in how they put it together, and I think they did a wonderful job. The directors and the actors were absolutely wonderful. Thank you.